I have chosen the best friend's brother as the anchor for this tale. I am Olivia, 36 years old, and I thought I knew the map of my life: steady job, steady marriage, steady friendships. Until the weekend, when the air at the lakeside retreat grew thick with possibilities I had long denied myself. The best friend in question is Mara, and her brother Marcus is the one I had watched from a careful distance, a man who carried age and history like a quiet armor. Mara swore we would all be just a loud, affectionate circle of family and laughter, a patchwork of dinners, birthdays, and late-night talks that stitched the fabric of a safe, normal life. That is what I clung to, even as a part of me wandered into forbidden territory, where the lines between friendship and longing blurred into a slow, dangerous sweetness. Set up. My life felt like a long, well-lit corridor, each door a promise I had already opened and closed. A husband who laughed at my careful plans, a career that rewarded my precision, friends who knew my jokes and never asked for more than a smile in return. I cherished the ordinary days, the morning coffee scent in the kitchen, the soft rain tapping on the windows after a long day, the way Mara would text a joke just when I needed a reason to breathe. It all appeared stable, predictable, safe. The marriage, though, wore a quiet, hushed weight, a distance that grew thicker as my days filled with meetings, proposals, and the taste of unsaid conversations. If I was honest, I felt a gentle ache, the sense that something important had slipped through the cracks of our shared life. The weekend our circle turned into a small, imperfect family gathering by the lake sounded like salvation. A chance to feel the old thrill of companionship without answering the hard questions about what our future could hold. Inciting incident, the moment I cannot forget, arrived in the hush before dusk, when the boat drifted toward a cove and the sun smeared everything gold. Marcus, freshly divorced and twice my age, stood at the railing with the ease of a man who had learned to survive the worst storms. He wore a calm that only rain and time can give, and I found myself watching him as if he belonged to a different life I had once imagined but never dared to claim. The first spark happened in a brush of his hand against mine, as he handed me a cooler, and our fingers met for a breath of a second. It was nothing. And yet the electricity lingered like a string pulled taut inside me. Our conversation that night drifted from safe topics to the ache we both kept hidden. The feeling that love could still be more than a rescue from loneliness. That perhaps a second chance might arrive, not as a dramatic gesture, but as a quiet reshaping of what feels possible. The confession came later, not in a loud, dramatic moment, but in a look that hung between us, heavy with what we both knew we should not want and could not ignore. Rising action. The next hour stretched into a delicate, almost breathless dance of small secrets and careful restraint. I listened to him speak about his divorce, the long months of repairs and revelations, and I heard a man who had learned to be brave again, who no longer demanded of life, but asked softly to be allowed to stay a while and see what could grow. I shared the pieces of my own fracture, the quiet bits I had tucked away in a drawer labeled safety, the routines I kept to shield my heart from the possibility of another heartbreak. The more we spoke, the more I saw him as not merely Mara's brother, or an older man with a rugged, weathered look, but as a fellow traveler who understood the risky business of choosing to love again after you have learned how not to. The night air tasted of pine and rain, and something sweet and forbidden, a scent that clung to my throat as if I had swallowed a secret and it would stay with me forever. We wandered along a dim path lit by lamplight, and every step we took toward the water felt like stepping closer to a truth I had pretended did not exist. The weekend deepened my fear and my hunger at once, that if I allowed myself to admit the truth out loud, I might lose the safe. tidy life I had built. Yet the fear felt smaller beside the longing to know what might happen if I did take that chance. If this confession has you on the edge of your seat, hit like and share because you will not believe what happens next. Mid-story twist. The weeks after that weekend dragged me through a season of quiet storms. I found myself replaying the afternoon in the boat, the way his voice lowered when he spoke of dreams he once chased and now feared to pursue again. It was not all heat and reckless courage. It was tenderness, an invitation to trust, and with trust, the sorrow and the risk. We met in crowded rooms and whispered conversations that never left the margin of decency, and I felt the old longing not as a flame, but as a soft, growing light that warned me I could be more than a wife who stayed for the sake of appearances. My husband, who had once been my partner in so many plans, became the person I remembered in glimpses, kind and distant all at once. A man who deserved honesty, even if it hurt. I owed him that, I decided. Even if the honesty pointed me toward Marcus and toward a future I had never allowed myself to imagine. Climax. The truth came in a night when the night air itself seemed afraid to breathe. We stood on the balcony, the lake a glassy moonlit sea behind us. I saw the life I might have if I let the door stay open. Marcus, not as a temptation, but as a companion who would stand with me as I learned to forgive, to endure, to hope again. He reached for my hand and did not pull away when I trembled, because he understood that fear is not a barrier, but a signal to be careful with what you choose to risk. I felt the old heartbeat that had not quite settled since my marriage began to crumble, a drumbeat calling me to live with courage, rather than with quiet, practiced sorrow. We kissed, careful and slow, like two people who had waited a lifetime for permission to begin again. It was not a vow sealed with ceremony, but a promise spoken in the language of whispered promises, and the knowledge that happiness can arrive in the form of a second chance if one is brave enough to take it. Falling action. The days after that kiss were a study in tenderness and restraint. We did not pretend to solve every question at once. We did not pretend that the road ahead would be simple or perfectly clear. But we did begin to chart a course, acknowledging both the gravity of what we felt and the consequences of choosing to act on it. I talked with Mara, with my sister-in-law, with my own heart, and listened to the echo of what love could be when it was allowed to unfold without fear. I mourned the endings I could not avoid, and I welcomed the endings I could shape. The ones that would lead to a future where love was not a secret and not a sin, but a choice that honored my own growth as much as the happiness of others. Resolution. I'm not sure where the road will take me next, but I carry with me a stubborn, defiant hope, a belief that true connection can survive even the longest winters if two people choose to keep tending the flame. Marcus and I share a quiet understanding that our story will be written in patience, in respect, and in the slow burn of a romance built on trust and honesty rather than urgency. The past still hums in the background. The hurt, the apologies owed, the lessons learned. Yet I feel a new breath, a sense of road opening before me. A horizon where love can be both a second chance and a fresh start. The future does not erase what came before. It uses it to form a kinder, wiser path. And so I step forward, hand in hand with Marcus, not escaping responsibility, but carrying it with care, as we explore the fragile, hopeful truth we found between us. If you crave more raw, emotional confessions, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter awaits. The story doesn't end here. It simply waits for the next breath I take, the next note I write, the next moment when love chooses bravely to be real. Emotional storytelling, forbidden love, second chances, mature romance, infidelity in marriage, love after loss, grief and healing, tenant love story, romantic narration, YouTube romance, healing through love, slow burn romance, older woman, younger man, heartfelt story, true feelings, emotional connection, faceless love, Olivia and Marcus, narrative romance, love found me.